I'm Nurse Jessica Seitz, along with Nurse Erica. We're Nurses Uncorked, the podcast that takes nursing facts with nursing comedy and makes a little cocktail out of it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Nurses Uncorked. It's Nurse Jessica Seitz, along with Nurse Erica, and our special guest again is It's Nurse Nina. We are picking right back up where we left off last week with part 2 of the truth about the Nurses March in Washington, D.C. back in 2022. We left off last week at the point where the two marches divided into two separate marches. And now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of why.
Before we knew it, there was two marches, which was absolutely the beginning of the end, right? That's if it didn't unravel with the live and the Black Lives Matter, it went off track with the two marches.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget that there was actually 3 marches, but the third one, which is just ridiculous if you think about it. The third one was very small, but it went from one very cohesive nurses everywhere participating into, before we knew it, 3 marches, but 2 kind of main ones. And that's just embarrassing. You know, I mean, let's just call it what it is. We embarrassed ourselves on a national stage. You know, here we have politicians and the media potentially watching and paying attention. And, oh yeah, the nurses are going to come to DC. They're going to demand change. Look at them. They can't even get it together to have one march. We're not too worried about the nurses. I mean, that's really how it was perceived. It was so embarrassing. And so
how are they going to take us serious after
exactly
that? You know?
No one did.
So
that's the problem.
We lost support of any financial support from any nurses association,
because of that.
From anybody, because of the divide. We kicked ourselves in the ass and lost everything because we couldn't get along, because we could not just fight for the common goal, and we all had to fight, and it was embarrassing. As Erica said, it was embarrassing, and I don't blame anybody. Like, how are you going to pick one march over another march and support one and not the other? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, right?
So
there's a big lack of communication.
I saw the inherent problems, and I was like, no, I can't support this publicly as the last pizza party. And I, really relayed that to my my partner with the last pizza party at the time, and said, like, look, there's problems here. We need to take a step back. We cannot come out publicly and support this march. And that was partially part of the unraveling at that time of the last pizza party. And so at some point during this, she and I split ways. And like I said, that's a story for another day. But I stayed quiet. And when I tell you that I was inundated on a daily basis for months and months, for probably 4 months nonstop, with not a couple dozen, not like thousands of emails, DMs, messages every single day on every single platform. Erica, why aren't you talking about the march in DC? Erica, are you going to the march in DC? Erica, do you support the march in DC? And it took every single bit of my willpower to not respond. I wanted to respond desperately, but I was not prepared to respond because it was such frankly, a shit show that I couldn't in good conscience support it or endorse it. And I kept hoping beyond hope behind the scenes that these 2 marches, these 2 separate groups would get it together and, come together and finally realize the error of their ways and have one cohesive march. So what I did, I waited until April 1st, 1 month beforehand, and I'll come back to that on what I did on April 1st and what happened. But what I did is I took a step back. I didn't answer anybody. I was radio silent. I didn't say a word about the march, and I got so much heat for that. You call yourself an advocate. Why aren't you talking about the march? Well, here's why. Now you're learning why. And so what I did do is I reached out one last time to Veronica Marshall, and I'm like, hey, I'm paraphrasing, super disappointed. There's 2 marches. This is a fiasco. Really hope you guys get it together. I would like to help in any way. If you need my help, please let me know. She puts me in a group. Nina will talk about that, I'm sure. Just doesn't say a word, just like, yeah, let me add you to this group. No explanation, nothing. Just this random freaking Facebook Messenger group with a bunch of people I don't know, except Nina. And simultaneously, I'm talking to Jessica more and more because she's becoming more involved with the second march. And again, my whole thing was like, is there any hope that these 2 marches will get together? And so Jessica's telling me, well, look, they're trying to have mediation sessions. And I was not really a part of those sessions, right. So I'll let you speak to that. But throughout this whole thing for about 4 months, I was talking to both groups kind of on the side saying like, let's get it together. Can I help in any way? And so I was really in a weird place of hearing from both sides and having a ridiculous bit of knowledge about both sides and yet still staying completely quiet, if that makes sense.
We didn't know who to believe. I know for sure I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know to believe the person that was bullying Veronica, or was she actually right? I don't know, because of the way that those conversations were handled. We weren't updated in those little groups we were in.
Tell them about
me and Erica were sitting in that group talking to each other like, so did you hear what we're supposed to do? So what's happening now? So what we're going to do now? Now, mind you, I was throwing ideas. Hey, let's do this. Let's do that. Right? I was trying to be active and proactive, but I wasn't getting much feedback. And we were just sitting around like waiting, and all these things was happening with the board and behind the scenes, but nobody was updating us. And we didn't know. We didn't know who to trust, who to believe.
Well, and every single day
that was occurring,
you would log into the group, and there would be like 5 notifications. So and so has left the group. So and so has been removed from the group.
So and so was added.
Day. And every day, Nina and I would be texting each other like, "What the hell is going on?" I was so confused. I don't even know what this group is. Like, am I supposed to be doing something? No one's giving me any kind of direction. Like, what is this? And Nina's over there, like, creating all these really creative graphic arts to, like, post to really promote.
Getting nowhere fast.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you guys, like, what are we doing? Give me something to do. It was so bizarre. It was so disorganized.
I should have done what you did, Erica, and I should have never, as an influencer, gotten involved until I knew what I was signing up for. I made a mistake, and to this day, I will say I made a mistake. I should have waited. I should have. Yes, because I thought that this was going to be a cohesive, nice, organized thing. I never envisioned what was going to go down, and I ended up putting myself in a place where it came down to, do I continue to follow the group that has these huge numbers?
Which was the original group.
Yes. Or do I support this woman, Sandy, that is being called a racist, that I know is not a racist? And it put me in a really tough spot. It put me in a hard spot because, like I was saying, as much as Sandy can infuriate and frustrate people, I knew that this woman was not what they were saying she was. She got horrible backlash, horrible, mean, horrible threats, messages, videos about her, taking down her organization that she's fought for. And it put me in a very, very, very awkward position that I decided that I had to go with my gut and stick with what I knew was not it. Sandy was not a racist. Okay. She was not a racist. And that's where the bottom line was. And that's how could I stay with a group that was calling somebody something that they weren't, when I really believed that they weren't. And even though she at this point was the underdog, I was like, I already decided I was going to be a part of the march. I was stuck in it as an influencer. It's not like I can just hightail it out. So I was forced into a position of, which way you going to go? What you going to do?
They were already accusing you of trying to make money off of it. They were doing that too.
What happened was, now I'm with Sandy, and we're seen as two white women with blonde hair, and now I'm a racist because I'm with Sandy. It was a nightmare. It was a actual horrible nightmare. And God bless Sandy, but the more and more I talked to her, she didn't know what she was doing with organizing a march. No clue.
Nope.
She was lost. So all I could do at this point was to call on somebody that I knew as one of my supporters, that was smarter than smart, that had all the knowledge in the world to throw something like this together, that I had become friends with. And I said to Marla, her name was Marla Barthen. I said, Marla, here's what's going on. I laid down the whole story. We need help. Would you be willing to help us organize this, or are we just done? And she helped us.
And she was very organized and very professional.
She's very smart,
where no one else was.
Very, very smart lady. And really, really helped us get things going, to the point that everything became so childish. It became like, well, Marla had the smarts, so Marla got the permit. Marla, we didn't have the numbers, but we got the best spot. We got the route that should have been for the right march. We got, you know what I'm saying? Like, it should have just been this cohesive, all of us together, and it turned into a absolute nightmare.
Fiasco.
It was, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I really, in hindsight, I wish, like I said, I wouldn't have even, I wish I would have let things kind of play out and then supported it once things were organized and there was a plan in place. I jumped on early because I was excited. I was excited about changing nursing, and I was a part of it, and there was no going back. And I did the best that I could do.
Can you, Jessica, speak to the mediation sessions? Because I know you were involved with some of that.
God.
And I heard about all of this from both sides secondhand, but I was not in those meetings. Can you speak to and to who were mediators? Because that's important. If you could see Jessica's face right now.
I'm having anxiety.
Take a sip.
Yeah.
God almighty.
I know. It's so bad. It's so bad.
So yes, because you guys, to put on a march takes a lot of money. It takes money. We needed funding. And the people that had the money were not kicking it in because we couldn't get along. So we had Kathleen Bartholomew was set and tried to help us. She came to us as our mediator, okay?
And
was
Kathleen
trying to talk
Bartholomew is, for those that don't know, like kind of nursing royalty, right? Like she's been around a minute. Yeah. She's an accomplished person.
Yes, she's written many books, is very well known. Has been involved in marches, like a very well established parts of, I don't know, the whole thing, unions, all of it. She's a very smart lady. Like, she's been around the block, and she offered her services to help us as on our side. I don't want to say side. It's so dumb to say it like that. But with the smaller march, she was like, hey, you guys can't get along, but maybe I can talk with Veronica's team and we can reach a middle man. And we're like, okay. So the other team, Veronica's team, had their own negotiator, which was a smaller content social media influencer creator. And, I don't want to necessarily say their name, but we'll just refer to them as Rocky. And if you don't get that, like, maybe it's who Rocky was married to. Well, Rocky Balboa. Anyways, yes,
A
okay.
very aggressive, angry person. Yes.
Which claimed to have a lot of union negotiation knowledge, blah blah blah. So we met on this night. We were all set up for negotiation night. Everybody was there. We're all telling our sides, this and that, and then we would pause, and Kathleen, our representative, would then go and meet with Rocky's wife, and they would talk, and then they would come back. What it all boiled down to was Sandy was stubborn. Sandy still wanted, if we were going to get back together, wanted Nurses Against Violence to be the, what is it called? 5013? I don't even know what the hell it's called.
Nonprofit.
Wanted to be the main representative, supportive person that was leading this march. And Veronica was done with that. They were done with that. It was like, no, we're going to get an outside non-for-profit. We ain't going down that path again. Sandy didn't want to let it go. Sandy was like, no, it's going to be Nurses Against Violence, and nobody could reach an agreement. Like, nobody could come in the middle and reach an agreement. You guys, on the outside, people were still posting videos, telling facts, lies, telling hoopla. Everybody's talking smack about everybody. It turned into this huge cat fight, this horrible cat fight everywhere on social media.
And everybody wanted credit. Each side wanted to be the one that named it, the one that gets the credit for the one being behind it. And, that's not what the march was about, for the love of God.
Oh, yeah. So the names kept changing.
Apparently, I named the National Nurses March.
You did?
Apparently, that was me.
Really?
Because we had a meeting between some of the people behind the wait, what was your Sandy's march? Was
we
National
went with
Nurses
the
March, right?
Well, here's what happened. Initially, it was the Million Nurse March, and some people were offended by Million Nurse March because they felt like
I don't even know what damn march I was in at this point.
They felt like it was tied to the Million Man
like
March,
it was co-opting the Million Man March, right? Which I get.
Right.
Yes,
I get that. And also, we should have mentioned this. The march was taking place on Nurses Day, which is Florence Nightingale's birthday. And for anyone that hasn't been paying attention the last few years, it has come to light in the last several years that Florence Nightingale was really not the be all end all wonderful angel of nursing that is taught to us in nursing school, that she was in fact like a raging racist. So the fact that they were holding it on Florence Nightingale's birthday and trying to call it the Million Nurse March didn't help anything.
No, it didn't.
Yep.
So Sandy and Veronica, before the split, decided to call it the National Nurses March. Maybe Nina may have come up with that. I'm just learning that.
I didn't. They were saying that I did, but one of the members that were in the group, he was like, everybody was trying to come up with a name because, by the way, at that time, Veronica, she checked out. She was like, I'm done with y'all.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
A couple of times just like,
she was bullied. So she was like, I'm done. So we're like, all right, well, we got to keep going. We got to keep doing this for these people. They're counting on us. So we were coming up with names, and actually one of the other members, he came up with it, and nobody heard him. And I was like, did you hear? Say it. And I said it again. And they're like, oh, Sandy's like, oh, okay, yeah, we could do that. And then they kept saying that it was me who came up with it. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
You're like, I'm just helping.
I'm not taking the credit. I just said what he said.
We had the National Nurses March, but then the two groups split. And so then Sandy decided on the Nurses March. So we had the National Nurses March, and ours was the Nurses March. And then there was another group that had another march. So at this point, there were 3 marches, 3 different names. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody could get funding. It was an absolute sad nightmare, an absolute catastrophic nightmare. Nobody could come together. Nobody could reach a resolution.
Well, and there were big groups, important groups, unions and associations that wanted to step up and support and lend financial support. And we're just like, if you guys could just get it together and do one march, we're going to support you. But because no one could get their shit together to have one march, they pulled back. And it was like, wasn't it like the the National Teachers Union, which is like a pretty powerful, am I remembering that correctly, Jessica? Wasn't it? I think.
I don't recall that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, it was like maybe some different associations and unions that
there's a lot of big names in there for sure.
That would have supported,
and they dropped off.
Yep, would have, right?
Yep. They would have, and we would have probably had all the funding in the world. We would have had an amazing, cohesive march if we had all stayed together and it not been this horrible nightmare. Like, it's sad. It's really sad.
It is sad.
Go ahead.
And so I stayed quiet, as I said, for 4 months, and I had told myself and I kept like constantly talking to Jessica, talking to Veronica, talking to different people on both marches, having these little side meetings. Like, is there any hope? Is it going to come together? But I said, if it gets to April 1st and there has been no decision, then I'm going to finally make a public statement, because I've had literally hundreds of thousands of nurses waiting. I mean, not to like inflate myself, but I have been at that point, tens of thousands of messages saying, would you please tell us what you're going to do, why you're not talking about this? So April 1st came, there was no coming together for the 2 marches. And so I finally made a video for the very first time speaking about this march after 4 months or however long it had been. And I said, just kind of briefly, what we've been saying here, but in a very shortened version. This is why I haven't said anything publicly. There's 2 marches. It's a fiasco. It's embarrassing. They're making the nursing profession look bad. And here's my bigger concern. Veronica was not being truthful or forthcoming with the fact that she did not have permits. They straight up lied to nurses everywhere. I'm going to be for real with you guys. Straight up lied.
I didn't know that.
Oh yes, to nurses saying that they had a permit here. They would say they have a permit at this park. Well, guess what? I was checking. They didn't have a permit at those parks. Or they would say this park and it holds 500,000. Well, guess what? I would check. It holds like 25,000 or whatever. I don't remember the exact amounts. And so my conscience was like, I cannot in good faith tell the single mom nurse in Ohio that is going to spend her PTO and the little bit of money she has to fly across the country to show up to a fictional march that doesn't even have a permit at this point, knowing, because I've been told by Parks and Recreation in DC, I've been told firsthand, if they surpass that amount of people and if they don't have a permit, DC police will come in and will shut them down and will send people away. So I really felt responsible for at least being honest with people and saying that, like, look, there's a chance you might show up and there might be nothing, or it might be broken up halfway through. So I made this little video. It felt very cathartic for me to finally speak publicly. And 12 hours later, roughly, Rocky's wife, who prior to that point had, only ever like duetted me and followed me and supported me, suddenly tried to paint me into the biggest Disney villain of all time and told the world that I was racist. And put out this horrible narrative. Said things like the people in the mediation group, which I was not a part of, that they called Veronica Marshall a caged gorilla. I'm going to just say that never happened. I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm just going to tell you that that's a straight up 100% lie. It's disgusting.
Never happened.
Made video after unhinged, crazy, has clearly not taken meds in weeks video, telling the world that I am racist. And I still have all of these. I forwarded them to my attorney. And I'm talking about, why is she not in a psych unit somewhere? Like, it was so unhinged. And ended every video with, oh, I have receipts. You know I have receipts. Well, guess what? Here we are nearly 2 years later. Not a single receipt has ever been produced. Because why? They don't exist. You're not going to find a receipt of me being racist. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what she
and
did
you're not
as
find
her
video content.
Of her damage control. So this is a direct retaliation for me being honest about what was going on behind the scenes with the Nurses March. 12 hours later, I wake up the next morning. She has gone on a social media frenzy telling the world that I am this horrible, horrible racist person. And she didn't let up for months and months and months, claiming, going on all these lives. I have all those videos too. Live after live saying, my name and that I'm a racist and this and that. I have all the receipts. I bring the receipts. Again, not a single receipt was ever produced. That woman is a pathological liar. Yep. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
There's a lot of supporters of that. They were saying the same things. And honestly, I'm like, well, shit, I don't want to be a part of them. Then if they're racist, I'm out.
I know.
Not you. I'm just saying, like,
I'm saying,
like in general, everybody.
It looks bad. Here. Listen, I get why it looks bad. It's me and Sandy and Marla that are even though I will say this, I am 50% Cuban. My mother is born in Havana, Cuba. I don't look Spanish. I am a minority. I speak Spanish. I grew up with a Cuban culture. But my physical appearance is completely like my father. I look like a typical white privileged woman. And it's me, Sandy, and Marla. It's three of us with blonde hair, blue eyes, light complexion. And we are the trio of white racist women.
Oh, we fit the profile.
We do. We did. And for people on the outside that don't know, we look like a bunch of crazy racist lunatics, and nothing I could say was right. I was scared to even talk anymore, because no matter what I said, my words were spun. My words were looked at as I was trying to be racist, or one example I can give. That was
their go-to
I've said
way
this many
of
times. In the South, we say "you guys." That's just a phrase that I say here in Florida. Everybody says it. You guys, that was spun as that I was depicting and pointing out the other group, and I was trying to say that I was above you guys. I got to the point I was scared to talk. I was scared to say anything because I was afraid that whatever
they
I
wanted
would
say to silence us.
Yeah. And that's how I felt. I really felt that way. And, in hindsight, had we all just gotten together with Marla involved, who's so smart and did such an amazing job with what she had against her, Sandy's passion, Veronica's initial vision, it would have been such an amazing, amazing thing that could have been. Could have changed something. Maybe.
I was disappointed.
All right. So simultaneous to this was the planning for the Redonda Vaught sentencing day. And so the DC Nurses March was taking place, on March 12th, Nurses Day. And Redonda Vaught's sentencing was unfortunately scheduled for Friday the 13th. the very next day. And so a lot of the nurses that were in DC for the 12th flew directly from DC to Nashville the next day. And so, and we'll get into some of that, but I had to make my travel arrangements, because I was definitely going to be at Renanda's sentencing. I was integral in that planning of that day. And so I went ahead and made my travel arrangements. I made my statement on April 1st. And so I was going to DC. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do when I got to DC, but I knew that I was going to be flying out of DC to make it to Nashville. So I went and kind of didn't know until that morning what I was really going to do. And so ultimately I went to the smaller march. I was definitely not going to go to the bigger march because it was literally just a discombobulated clusterfuck. They did, I will say, bring it together to an extent at the very last minute. And I mean
end.
The very, very last minute. And Nina was actually there at that bigger march. And so
I was there at that one.
She can speak to that. Jessica and I were at the smaller march. And I will say, give credit where credit is due. They had beautiful optics. Like we've all probably seen the picture or the video of the nurses marching down the street. And there were a lot of nurses, some thousands of nurses.
Professional that came. Pictures were taken. Yeah.
Beautiful pictures. The optics were beautiful. Unfortunately, that's where it ended. There was no actionable events. There was no, okay, take this energy from here, go home to your state. This is what you need to do while you're here in DC. Get in touch with your representatives. Here's the name of the, the Safe Staffing Act, the Workplace Violence Act. This is what you need to support. There was nothing, no direction, no actionable event. There was, in fact, a concert. Great, a concert, but that's not solving anything. There was no media attention. There was no politician involvement. It was
a rally.
Thank you.
Huge
it
rally.
Was essentially a rally. It was not a march.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to show for it. And I want to take a minute to highlight the previous Nurses March, which took place in March of 1995. It was the Nurses March on Washington, D.C., and that was headed by Laura Gasparis von Frolio, another kind of nursing royalty legend.
Yes.
She somehow managed to get 35,000 nurses to arrive and to support this march in the days before social media. Can you imagine the logistical challenge that
I didn't even know that existed.
Oh yeah, you can look at YouTube videos. It was impressive. They're all like in their white, caps, because this is so long ago.
Here I'm thinking this is the first one.
Oh no, not Baby Shot. And Nurses Take DC. They have done some really important things over the years. But they all had something in common. They had actionable events. They gave direction. They had follow-up. They had appointments with people. They had media attention. They did all the work ahead of time to make it a successful event. None of that took place with this event. Laura Gasparis von Frolio, she had state nurses unions, like tons and tons of them, show up. She had unions across the country show up. And this is 30 years ago, and she managed to do this. So here we are with the blessing of social media in this day and age and how easy it is to spread the word. And they had nothing to show for it aside from a couple good pictures and video. And that is so disappointing. And the reality is that as much as the nurses there felt the energy and the excitement, and I'm sure it was like a wonderful and inspiring day for them, I have no doubt. Were any of them coming back any subsequent years? No, because nothing came from it. It affected zero change. Nothing. It was pointless. Essentially, it was a rally, like Nina said. Now, we were at the smaller march, Jessica and I, and we had some other nurse influencers there. Z-Dog MD provided a video message to us. We had entertainment. We had a lot of stuff. It wasn't exactly a march, but it was right there at the monument, the Washington Monument. And I have to say, it was a really nice day. Like, it was an enjoyable day. But neither one of the two marches were what they should have been or could have been.
Correct.
Now, I have to say, too, though, that one thing I feel like the good did come out of this is, okay, we didn't get maybe like political action, or we didn't move the bill as we were hoping. Ultimately, like, we're like, that's the goal, right? We want to create this law and have them enforce it. That's why we're there in DC.
Yep.
But what did happen, I think, though, is how a lot of nurses were inspired. And I think one of them went on a trip with us to Italy.
Yes, Nina came on my trip to Italy. So, yes, and there was one there. Yes, you're right.
So she was telling me how she was inspired by that and empowered. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why I wanted to proceed with it. I was disappointed in how it went. I felt like, damn it, the representation is going to suck. But you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to represent for me and my people. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to support nursing. And I'm going to show I'm going to keep fighting. And I'm going to at least try to, you know, go along with the flow, whatever it was going to be. Because I checked out already.
You came to our get together the night before the march. I think you were trying
and I went to meet you guys because I knew all that was bullshit that they were spitting, because I did not like the hate, because let's be real, it was hate that you received.
It was.
Maybe somebody was
so
racist
harmful
in the group. I don't know, but I know that you and I don't think Sandy was either. And I was like, I think that part really sucked. And I don't know what the other business aspect. I don't know the whole truth for everything, because the board was keeping secrets from me, which is why I didn't really trust them.
They were not transparent.
And I think they were painting pictures of people. I don't know. It was very contradictory. But anyway, I said, I don't know. I just gotta meet her. I feel bad. Let me hug her. Let me give her a hug.
So Nina, you were there at that march. You know, how was the march for you? I've heard from nurses that were there that it was very long, that a lot of nurses couldn't actually physically walk the distance, that it was chaotic. Route, I've heard from nurses that said they never could get into the venue where they had the concert. They only had the venue for a very short period of time, that they had some silly QR code that they had to scan to get in, and that so many of them, it didn't work, and people literally just turned around and left because they couldn't even get into the venue. But I wasn't there. So how was it for you?
Well, first, when we got there, when we started off, we started off in front of the White House, and a lot of people were there. It was like a big rally, right? And we were all getting hyping each other up. It was great. There was some kind of holdup, and apparently the city wasn't prepared for the number of people that showed up.
Yeah,
so it would appear that I guess part of the organizing, either people didn't register and ended up showing up anyway, but they just did not expect that much. So anyway, so that was a little bit of a holdup there to get us going. That prevented us from going right away. But yes, they did the walk. Then they ended at the Audi Stadium, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
That's where there was a rally. There was a performance. There was speakers. Julie was there. She spoke there.
I love Julie.
And
Julie Griffin.
Very, very inspiring. Julie Griffin, yep. Very inspiring. A couple other speakers, and that was nice. But the stadium was pretty dry. I was pretty surprised. Like, yeah, there were so many people in there. I'm like, where the hell is everybody? So I guess something did happen where not everybody went in. Because first of all, I got there first. I took a shortcut, went around, because I had an issue that I had to handle. Yeah, so And my knees ain't built like that, okay? Let's just be real. I'm just not that young girl I thought I was.
Yeah, it's a long walk.
But yeah, so when we got there, I got there, it was empty, but it didn't really fill up as much as I thought. It was fairly empty. That was odd.
Wow.
So I guess that might have been right. There might have been some people.
Yeah, I
not
just
able to get
recently
in.
learned
Nobody
that
scanned
when I
me.
was in
Nothing for me, but
Pennsylvania. I heard
yeah.
from nurses saying, so many of us never got in. It was an absolute fiasco trying to get in.
There was a couple vendors there too. There was a couple vendors there doing their thing. So,
okay,
which was weird. I felt like, okay, there's some controversy here. Like, you didn't want people to come in and sell stuff, but now you do. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Anyway,
Right.
but I was just glad that that drama was over and hoping that something good did come out of this. I know me, for one, I was inspired. I learned things. I learned that because I was one of those, let's go fight for our rights, right? But someone in the group brought it up. Excuse me, you have to have a strategy, and you have to bring this to the policy makers, and you have to educate them on why we're doing this, and encourage them to support you. So I learned how important that was, and I became more politically involved after that. So I did have some growth from that myself personally.
Jessica, what did you think of the day? How did you think the day went?
I felt like for what we were able to accomplish, that we did a great job. Meaning, we didn't have the numbers. I think, maybe we had 3,000 people turn out. Maybe. I feel like even though it was smaller, I feel like the day was beautiful. We put a lot of work into it. We even had, like if she was saying, Z-Dog, Jason Mraz had made a message for us.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, like there was a lot of celebrity cameo videos that they were supporting us. The speeches were amazing. We had a beautiful Reverend came and spoke. Had we had all of that conglomerated with everybody else, it would have been off the chain.
Amazing.
But I do feel like I was so excited to get to see Muscles, to hang out with Erica. Like, I just felt like
it was fun.
For what we could do, we did a great day. And I was sad that it was separated. I was sad that we couldn't all get it together. But I, like Nina said, I learned a lot. I learned how much it takes to get things done in DC, how permits work, how you have to have so many things passed. You have to have certain porta potties for the numbers of people. You've got to have security. You've got, the list goes on and on. It's not just we decide we're all going to show up. Yeah, it's not like that at all. You have to have an area available for the number of people. Like, it was a huge learning experience. I definitely learned in hindsight, as somebody that's in social media, even though I'm passionate about it, to maybe stay back a little bit until things are a little bit more settled before I get gung-ho. But I was excited. I was trying to help promote things and get people involved. And I was just sad we couldn't all see eye to eye. I was sad to see it turn into a big, like I say, cat fight.
It's just such a shame, because the motivation is never going to be like it was then, coming still in the midst of COVID.
We missed
right?
It.
We're never going to have, hopefully, knock on wood, we're never going to have that kind of anger propelling us forward again like we did. Like, that was the moment. If ever there was a time that nurses were going to come together and demand change, that was it. And it was a lost, massive opportunity. And that is what makes me so angry.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So, now we have to do it individual levels.
Correct.
Yeah.
As
And now,
which we still do that. I mean, we're supposed to do that anyway. We don't end it there. We have to take this home and continue to share the truth in our community and keep doing what we're doing on our social media platforms, and bringing everybody together, whether you're laughing with them, educating them, or
And I just wanted to double back briefly and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this component of it. I alluded to the last pizza party that I co-founded kind of falling apart in the midst of this. And in the fallout of that, my former co-founder of the last pizza party got kind of involved with the Rocky's wife person that you were mentioning earlier, and another really small nurse creator, and really kind of made it their mission to discredit me, I would say. And I think because I stayed silent throughout the entire march until the very end, they didn't quite know what to do with that. And they eventually clearly reached out to Veronica Marshall and inserted themselves sort of at the last minute, like towards the very end, into the planning of the march, of which they were not a part of at all for months and months. And everything that they did behind the scenes, which really ultimately ended or contributed to the failure of the marches, they also did with the planning of the Redonda Vaught sentencing day the following day in Nashville. So my good friend Tina and I planned the sentencing day event in Nashville. Tina did an amazing job, and of course you all know that I'm really good friends with Redonda, and we had all of that planned. And they tried to swoop in at the last minute and do everything that they tried to do with the DC March. So they created a whole separate group. They claimed that they had permits, that they were the one planning it. Meanwhile, they didn't know Redonda. In fact, when I invited her to come to Redonda's trial with me the year before, she wanted nothing to do with it. So it was just almost comical and unbelievable for me to sit back and witness this not happen once, but twice, back to back, for the sole purpose of really kind of elevating themselves. They didn't care. They had no personal relationship with her. They didn't know about her. They didn't care until it was an opportunity to really make a name for themselves. And they didn't clearly learn their lesson with the DC Nurses March, because everything that they tried to do and co-opt in DC, they did on a smaller scale in Nashville, until they were essentially told, stop it, you're out. And then they had to kind of quietly go away. Oh yeah, that's a whole other story. Yeah. So maybe one day I'll tell that story, but I would be remiss, like I said, if I didn't mention that component, because it quite literally repeated itself again.
But yeah, it's very telling.
And you were there in Nashville too, so you got to see some of that.
It was an absolutely amazing day. I've said it before, one of the most bonding days that I've had with a group of nurses in many years. Absolute beautiful day that we all came together for the same common goal. Tina and Erica did an amazing job. I was so glad to be a part of it. It meant more to me than, sad to say, as much effort as I put into the march meant more to me than 20 times more, 1,000 times more to me than the march did, because we were all united and we were all together for a common goal. There was no bickering, there was no fighting, there was nothing. Everybody was just there to support the same thing, and it was beautiful. But in hindsight, what I'm trying to say is, I find it very telling that the same group of people that tried to take people down in Nurses March, whatever you want to call it. It's the same group of people that tried to take down Redonda's Day. Do with that what you will. Don't know what to tell you about that, but it's a bit coincidental.
It's more than coincidental. And Redonda's sentencing day was a huge success as far in terms of nurses coming together united, because as we know, that just doesn't happen. And I've never seen a more united group of nurses. And they all the ones that came directly from DC said the same thing that you said. Like, why couldn't we have had this in DC yesterday? Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So what we weren't able to accomplish in DC, we did accomplish in Nashville. And I'm very proud of that.
Yep. It got Redonda the more attention that she needed and deserved to a case that was beyond ridiculous. And it gave her the support that she needed, I think, to hopefully mentally get through that day, which is what the whole point of it was. So,
and y'all did that for Nurse Sybil last week too.
We're trying to help Sybil. We are. We need more people to donate for Nurse Sybil, but we're trying.
Yes,
we are.
Jessica
trying.
actually
Sybil's
donated
adorable.
$500 to Nurse Sybil. Bless you.
I did. God bless her. She's a sweet, sweet little thing. But it was another freaking injustice in nursing. Absolutely freaking ridiculous. I have no words to even describe what that woman has been through and what she's gone through and how she has just been given the absolute worst case scenario run around. Yeah, please donate to Sybil. She needs it, seriously. I hope she gets what she, I don't want to say, I'm trying to say this the right way. I hope she gets the justice that she deserves. I hope that
absolutely
she's able to get vindicated, and hopefully she'll appeal, and we'll see what happens with that, but we won't forget her. We're going to keep talking about her.
Yeah.
So with that said, Nina, do you have anything to add to this?
That's what I was going to say.
Crazy story. Anything that you want to add that you think is, hey, I didn't get to say this, or?
Well, one thing I didn't like is that they weren't putting my damn post in the group. And I was one of the ones as an actual content creator.
What, they kept
you did a lot of work for nothing.
They wouldn't post it. They were just like, when you post in a group, you got the moderators. They just, go through them and get rid of them. And I'm like, what the hell?
Like, why'd I do all that?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, hold on. Do you know who I am? Just kidding.
Yeah. It's Nurse Nina.
So, Nina, please tell us about this prestigious award that you recently won. I'm so proud of you, girl.
Thank you. So, I live in Philly, or in the Philly area. And there was a very popular entrepreneur and amazing community member, Puerto Rican community member, who likes to honor Puerto Ricans who have done great things in the community. And he hosted an event for Hispanic Heritage Month where he honored people in different categories. We had like Artist of the Year and then Influencer of the Year. And I happen to have been nominated for Influencer of the Year. And even better, I actually won it.
You won?
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was so honored. I've been very active in the Hispanic community since I was in high school, actually, being a part of Hispanic Nursing Association and really trying to advocate for my Hispanic community. And I guess people saw that, and then they see me acting a fool online and, having a good time, making people laugh and being the entertainer that I am. And I guess they loved it.
That's the way to do it. Well, Erica won an award too. Let's not forget you, Erica.
This was about Erica. This wasn't about me.
Well, it triggered me to think about your award too. So congratulations to both of y'all. I didn't get shit, but congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Well deserved. Not the shit,
Yes.
but well-deserved, Erica.
Yeah.
Erica,
Yeah.
yours was influencer of the year,
Nurse
right?
influencer of the year from nurse.org. Yeah.
So
it was very
congratulations to
exciting.
both of you guys. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I won
Thank
worst red lipstick of 2023. Yeah, I got a trophy.
So Nina, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah.
So I actually am on mostly. I'm not on OnlyFans. I promise. I thought about
yet,
it.
Anyway,
that's the only thing I'm not on. Because times is rough, y'all.
Right?
But
who knows? Stay tuned.
Who knows? For now. Don't tell my husband, Erica. So Instagram, it's _nurse_Nina. Facebook, it's Nurse Nina. TikTok the same, but my home's really Instagram mostly. So, and I've got a blog, by the way, talking about my view of nursing and advocating for my Hispanic community as well in there too, and
where can they find the
from
blog?
a nice, real and raw perspective. It's nursenina.com.
Of course.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you, Nina, for joining us.
Thank you for giving me a platform to speak on and share something that was bothering me for a long time.
Me too.
I was afraid to ruin their image further and ruin it for nursing further, so I stood quiet for a long time.
A lot of people did.
I've been feeling quite a loss from it. So, but thank you for allowing me to share this.
Well, I so appreciate your perspective in this and for joining us. And, like you said, I felt very pressured to stay silent for a very long time. And it was not the right thing to do. And it was not good for me ultimately. And I just have a real problem with people attempting to rewrite history. And I thought that it was important for us, while we still kind of remember it and it's still sort of fresh in our memories, to tell what really happened.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we have such opposite, not opposite, but our perspectives are, I feel like I almost joined in way too soon. And you're like, I feel like I was too quiet for too long. It's like, we can't ever we'll never know what the right thing to do was. We'll never know. Should I have waited till later, or should you have spoken up sooner? I think the right thing to do was for all of us to have gotten along and it would all worked itself out, but that's not, unfortunately, that's not what happened. So maybe
I'm glad I met y'all.
I'm glad I met you too.
I met y'all.
You are such a bright light, Nina. She makes me smile every time I see her videos. She really does. Well, thank you, everybody.
At me?
No, I'm laughing with you, girl. I'm laughing with you. Óyeme, yo puedo hablar español un poco también. Necesita practicar más, pero yo puedo hablar,
yes.
¿ok?
Okay. Yes.
Tengo 5 años de español en la escuela.
¡Hey! Muy bien,
hasta la semana que viene, cuando nosotros empiecen un otro Nurses Uncorked.
Yes.
There you go. What she said.
Stay tuned. Escuchan.